Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Habari gani? I'm delighted to join you this morning as we gather for this two-day summit that brings together a global network of investors, developers, government officials, financial consultants, architects, technology providers, with the objective of identifying effective and innovative affordable housing solutions, not just for Kenya, but for our beloved continent in Africa. Kenya is looking to become a trailblazer in this affordable housing agenda. And as a matter of fact, as you enjoy this beautiful city of Nairobi, just across town, if you get time, my housing secretary is here, my director of administration is here. We will be very much delighted to take you to one of the sites where we've already started construction of affordable housing program, because we have left boardrooms and occasionally we come for these summits to encourage you, but us, we are now wearing helmets and all this construction attire, because we have moved to site. So we are very, very excited that we are no longer talking about affordable housing as a pipe dream. It is happening. And in the coming months, it is Kenya is going to be the place to be. And I do believe that some of the lessons that we've learned, because as a pioneer, we do acknowledge that we will find some speed bumps along the way. There will be some headwinds along the way. But we are not afraid of taking a challenge to take a lead. But ultimately, we do believe that we will come up with a solution that can be replicated in the entire continent. And that is what really gives me a lot of excitement to be part of this conversation, because I happen to sit in a very important board of the Pan-African housing solution provider, which is Shelter Afrique. And the conversations that we are having every time we meet is how are we going to house. We have a housing deficit of 52 million housing units. Now, 52 million is a tall order. Ours here, we are talking about 500,000 in this medium-term plan, and it looks insurmountable. So when you start talking about 52 million, it is quite a challenge. But instead of looking at it as a challenge, we see it as 52 million opportunities. And I think as a continent, if we have the right kind of conversation, affordable housing can be more than just structures, building structures and housing people in decent neighborhoods. It is actually an opportunity for economic stimulation into our own market. So this is a conversation that we need to have, and we can argue, we can debate different models of delivery, because they're not all going to be the same. But the one thing that I will encourage all of us to do is to seize the moment, seize the opportunity. History will not judge us well. That when we were faced with this so-called insurmountable challenge, we did not kick it down. We did not kick the can down the road for the future generation to deal with. Let the history books be written that when the call came, we rose up to the occasion and we confronted the monster, and we started to make things change for our beloved continent. I am joined here today by my technical team and officers from the ministry who are very hardworking to participate and collaborate with you in our common pursuit to deliver adequate and affordable housing. Distinguished guests, Kenya has been rapidly urbanizing, but the growth of urban population has not been matched by a similar pace in the development of urban housing and infrastructure. This has resulted in a huge backlog of about 2 million houses. Now, this 2 million is a statistic that has been there since we started this Vision 2030 MTP. We commissioned a study by KPMG, and this is now going county by county, and the number that has come back of what is the actual deficit is in the north of 4.5 million. So I think at some point we need to adjust these numbers. I know this was based on a World Bank study a while back, but the current study by KPMG, which we shall be releasing to you stakeholders for engagement, shows that our housing deficit, they've gone and made calls and take samples of Kenyans that want houses, is in the north of 4.5. I think the number was about 4.8 million the last time I checked a draft report. So it is an enormous challenge and backlog that I do believe creates huge opportunities for all of us in this place. Kenya's estimated annual urban housing demand, again, is based on this study that was named Unaffordable and Unavailable, is 250,000 units against an annual urban supply of 50,000, which mostly targets the high-end market, with only 2% of formerly constructed houses being targeted to the lower income segment. And I do believe that this is something that resonates with the rest of the continent where we are coming from. So according to our central bank, in 2017, there were only 26,187 mortgages with an average loan size of 10.9 million shillings. Arising from these challenges, then it is no wonder that we have got slums that are mushrooming across the country. Informal settlements are proliferated in our urban and peri-urban areas across the country. And again, if we don't confront this giant, in the next couple of years, these slums will have caught up with, right outside your own home. Someone is going to come and build there, because if we are not don't have the foresight to address this challenge, the problem is just going to become bigger. Ladies and gentlemen, this summit is convened at a time when the government has embarked on a very ambitious plan of delivering 500,000 housing units by the year 2022 as one of the pillars for our medium-term plan, which is called the Big Four Agenda. The affordable housing program provides an opportunity to right the systemic issues in housing through clear interventions that will restore our people's dignity. These interventions comprise critical solutions in the demand and supply side of the housing. The affordable housing envisages an inclusive delivery strategy involving county governments, private sector, housing cooperatives, landowners, financiers, consultants, amongst others. The key component of the program includes the mobilization of affordable housing finance, land identification and registration, provision of supportive infrastructure, tapping of innovative construction technologies and material for mass housing production. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are not going to work our way out of this hole by employing the same traditional methods that we have done for many years. That is not going to work. The other day, I had a firm from Germany come and present to me some of the new innovative technologies that are going on out there. And while previously I had been told that people can do a house a day, this firm came and demonstrated that they can do a house in 2.5 hours. I was amazed. And that is the state of how this industry of ours is evolving. Ours is to embrace change. I know change is not easy, and maybe it might call that you might have to go back to school. Some of you architects here, I know there was a housing survey that we did, and when I looked at the comments by the built environment professionals, they were not very supportive of these industrial building techniques, because you've been 20 years doing the traditional brick and mortar, and having to design a house outside that, it takes you out of your comfort zone. But that is the opportunity that we have to change. So let's embrace change, because if you don't embrace change, you're going to be left alone and behind, clutching on straws. It's also our plan also includes reviewing of legislation and other factors improving the enabling environment so that the delivery of the program is expedited. And here in our country, His Excellency the President deemed it fit through an Executive Order number 1 of 2019 to establish what is called a one government approach. Because for many years, when you do things on an isolated basis, you are successful on an isolated basis, on a silo basis. But actually we end up having a very dysfunctional system. And it's not out of design, but it is because, I'll give you an example. In last year finance bill in this country, I think the Ministry of Environment, with very good reasons, protecting our forest, we have a plan to make sure that we have got 10 million trees planted. And we want to make sure that we have got 10% tree cover in this country. And a part of that good plan was to protect our forests from logging. So through the legislative processes last year, we banned logging of local trees, which is great. But then another state department tasked with collecting as much money as we can went and introduced duties. And then here is an affordable housing program that is talking about bringing down the cost of construction in the country. So ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that on a standalone basis, each one of us have got noble ideas, but they're all in conflict with each other. So there's what we call a policy misalignment. And that is why beginning this year, every week we are meeting at the highest level of government, including cabinet, to make sure that this issue of policy misalignment is a thing of the past. And we've started to see it work. And now we have got what is called one government approach. And if you have good ideas, they are subjected to the rest of the team so that we make sure that good ideas do not end up killing another good idea. So that is just one example. We have got 39 pieces of legislation, statutes that we have proposed that needs to be amended, because while they are good in certain ways, they're in conflict with where we want to go in terms of this affordable housing agenda. And I call upon you to engage our technical team and get your hands on those legislations. And we are not afraid of going to any uncharted grounds. We will take on anything that is needed to be taken on. Still on? Hello. I know I've got a loud voice. I don't know whether you can hear me at the back. You good? All right. So I was saying that we're not afraid of on whatever challenges.
Check.
And,
Check.
As a matter of fact, in this year's finance bill, we have submitted perhaps one of the most aggressive
Check.
raft of amendments to our income tax laws so that we enable you as our partners, developers and financiers to be able to execute this mandate. with the right kind of incentives, because money is not the problem. And I am a money man. My background is money, so I understand capital. And I know that capital loves certainty. Capital loves decision making, even if it is not, one can argue whether it is right or not right, but capital loves certainty and loves decision makers. And we've actually proven that our problem is not capital. Throughout this particular process, we have invited strategic partners. Our program for 500,000 houses envisions that we need a capital outlay of about 1.3 trillion shillings or $13 billion. And through 2 calls for strategic partners, I'm happy to report that the expressions of interest that we have received are in the north of $20 billion. So money is not the problem. And money is looking for good places to invest. And that is why our program is investor friendly. Our program is designed with you as a capital providers in mind. And therefore, this is a good place for you to come and invest. As I was saying, when you go through the finance bill, and I hope all our changes that we proposed have been incorporated, we have gone for the most the most aggressive changes that we need in our tax regimes. We have gone for VAT. And VAT, for those of you who are in construction here, is a very painful tax because it is a cash flow tax. It affects your pocket. And because if you pay VAT on material, but when you sell the unit, there is no output tax. So VAT in our industry is an actual cost. You see, in other places, there's an input and an output. In our industry, there's none. So this year we have gone for VAT, and I hope, and my friend Lee and all of you guys in the built environment, because we cannot win this battle alone, because I know there will be other people that will oppose it. So it is up to you to make sure that you follow up and make sure that these changes that we are pushing for, you also add your voice to those changes. That is 16% straight to the bottom line that we can get. And so I do believe that by making some of those changes, immediately we are going to unleash the potential for affordable housing.
Your mic is back.
My mic is back. Now, I used to be a preacher, so I know what street preaching is all about. So I hope I did well at the back there. You got me?
My mic is still on.
So therefore, what we are saying is that this program has been designed with you in mind. And we don't look at it as though what is there today is the end of it. This is a live process. And we are making changes as we go. And the only thing that we will not allow ourselves is to get stuck in the world of perfect, because perfect is the enemy of good. And we believe we have a good program. And we know it's a good program because the interest that we have received is so huge. We invited private landowners in this country. We have received 12,000 acres of good land. So land is not a problem. We've invited developers. We have got over 120 developers already pre-qualified in both Window 1 and Window 2. And so, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to digress from my written speech so that I can make just a few comments that I want to address, first of all, to you, the end user, and then address you partners that want to come and participate in this program here in our country. I think for those of you who've been following this affordable housing program, one of the things that is very sad is that we have gotten stuck on one narrative, and that narrative revolves around the mandatory contribution. And then it made this entire program look as though it was just based on this mandatory contribution. We are not married to any plan. We are ready, and we are a country and a government that listens. But the one thing that we don't want to do is to allow the status quo, is to allow the do nothing. That is not an option. But the one message that I hope that we get and we can pass over to our people out there is just how much this program has been designed with you, the end user, in mind. We don't get to talk about those things. And here is the sad part. You see, when we have in our tax laws a raft of incentives geared towards you as a potential home buyer, if you're not a home buyer, those incentives remain very good on paper, but they're useless. You know, for the last many years, we've had a mortgage relief. Up to 25%, I think, subject to about 3,750 a month. A relief. And you know the difference between a relief and a deduction? A relief reduces your actual tax expense. So those of you here who do good tax planning, if you're actually paying for a mortgage, it is good tax planning. But guess what? With 25,000 mortgages, what is the purpose of a mortgage relief? It's not useful. So there's something, and that is the elephant in the room. I've been talking to employers. Some of our financial institutions have got, is sitting with about 66 employers that have put what is called cash-backed schemes for housing, including myself. I am the custodian of the civil servants and state officers mortgage scheme. I've got about 5 billion shillings right now that is not spent with the 2 commercial banks. And what is the problem? The problem is on the supply side. The uptake for these cash-backed schemes is less than 10%. So guess what? These banks are sitting with tens of billions of shillings now that can be deployed to provide homes, but you cannot find an affordable home. On the tax side, this last year we put in stamp duty is exempt now for first-time homeowners. But guess what? For as long as you're not a homeowner, that remains good on paper, but it does not help you. Same year, last year, we doubled our home ownership savings plan, HOSP, which is in Section 22 of our Income Tax Act. We doubled it from 4,000 to 8,000 a month. But guess what? If you're not saving towards your home, that home ownership savings plans mean nothing. Last year, cognizant of the fact that majority of the people that we are addressing in this affordable housing program are people who are living from hand to mouth, and that any tax or any contribution that touches on their take home is going to hurt them the most. Before we introduced any mandatory contribution, we introduced an affordable housing relief. And let me tell you something. The affordable housing relief is 15% of your gross, subject to 9,000 a month or 108,000 a year. The contribution is 1.5%. Do the math. As a matter of fact, if you're now saving towards your house and claiming the relief, your pay slip looks better than the person who is not. But these are things we don't talk about. Why? because we've allowed a few noisemakers on Twitter and a few people that have got tens or whatever of houses to dominate the conversation. And this is what we need to take them on, head on. We must not be afraid to address the issue of the supply, because that is where the problem lies. And most of you are developers here. And I'm going to ask you a question. We have halved your corporate tax. From this year, the cost of energy for those in the manufacturing sector, the tariffs are coming down. You saw what was proposed in the finance budget last week or the week before last by the CS for finance. Why are you not building? Why are you not building? The reason why you're not building, and I've spoken to most of you, is because the people who are funding you, the investors who are putting money behind you, they need a clear exit strategy. Without a clear exit strategy, and with all these non-performing loans, and actually when you look at all the non-performing loans in our financial institution, the real estate is the highest. So good luck if you're a developer and you're going to go out there to a commercial bank and borrow some money and tell them that you want to build for people earning $500 a month. That is not going to happen. And that is why this program, and if there is anything that you miss today, don't miss this point. This is not about government getting involved in a space where we are not best placed to do. No. It's not about government building houses where we have done a very poor job. We have. This is about enabling you, the financier, the developer, to give you the tools to be able to put up this affordable housing. That is what is at the heart of this program. And so don't go on Twitter to try and get the information of about affordable housing program. Download the documents. Go to www.bomayangu.go.ke, and that is where all the repository of all these program is. And I think those that have done so, they become very aggressive. So in the coming months, here is the good news. We're going to be launching Starehe. We're going to be launching Shauri Moyo. This is going to be all in the first quarter of the next financial year, which starts next week. We've got 140,000 housing new city that we are master planning that is coming up. We signed with the UNOPS in UK, in New York, together with their strategic partners, to do 100,000 homes. That was an MOU. I'm not always excited about MOUs because sometimes MOUs are, like a love letter. It says, I like you very much, and you like me, and we shall like each other, and we shall continue. But it does not say anything. But now we've moved from liking each other into committing. We're no longer dating. So there's 100,000 houses. They've already raised the money. We have identified some of the land where they're going to start deploying these projects. We've got a brand new city that is coming near the airport. Private land. 1,000 acres of private land that is going to be unlocked. We've got Homa Bay, beautiful piece of land, 2,000 units coming up, all going to be signed in the first quarter. Kisumu and Migori and Kirinyaga and Kisii, these are all counties that have already submitted the land. Therefore, mine is to encourage you. Be part of history making. The grounds are set. Don't wait for the perfect condition. For there's nothing that is perfect out there. And we, as I said, we will continue making whatever changes we have to make affordable housing a dream come true. We have quantified, we have stripped the house into the bare components. So I know how much cement I need. I need 44 million bags of cement. When we are having these Twitter wars and conversation, are we having the right kind of conversation? The right kind of conversation that we should be having as Kenyans, and we do have cement factories here. The question is, are we in a position to supply this cement locally? I need 18 million bars of steel. We have got steel companies here. The question is, how much of the 18 million bars of steel can be made here locally? I need 5 million kgs of nails. Hey, Musumari, we don't need to import nails. Are we having the right kind of conversation? The other day, we had a nominated supplier, a group of Juakali people, informal traders, making doors for our flagship project here in Park Road. 8,500 doors, 122 million directly to people who otherwise will never get those kind of opportunities. Are we having the right kind of conversation? Affordable housing, I submit to you, it's not just about dignifying our people, which is very important because that is what the authors of our Constitution envisioned in Article 43, 1B, that everyone has a right to decent and affordable home with adequate housing and water and sanitation. That is what is in the Constitution, and that is your right, by the way. But we can dignify our people while stimulating our economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have, in the next 2 days, let's not tap dancing now. Let's get into serious conversation. And I hope Kumar and the chairman, that I have promised that I'll be back tomorrow, because today I've got other assignments, and I'll be back tomorrow. And I want to sit here and I'm going to take your questions and I want to engage with you, because I want us to make sure that when we leave here, we are very clear, we have clarity of mind what this program means. And as a country, the opportunities are not just here in Kenya. Can you imagine if we only perfected the art of doing doors, and Kenya is known in the entire continent as a place where good doors are made? How many doors, Mr. Chimponda, do we need for 52 million houses across the continent? Are we having the right kind of conversations? The number of youths that we are going to employ. We're talking about manufacturing as one of the big four agenda. Our own economic model shows that for every one house, we are going to have at least 3 new direct jobs that are going to be created. So when we are stuck on the 1.5%, are we having the right conversation? So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to go beyond what I've said. I have promised that I'm going to be back tomorrow. Maybe during lunchtime today or tomorrow, those of you who would like to visit our site in Park Road. Why am I so proud of Park Road? As a matter of fact, Park Road is the smallest of all the schemes that we have so far. Park Road, we handed over the site to the developers in February. Construction started in April. The first set of 228 units will be completed by September. We are running 3 shifts in Park Road. And that is the kind of excellence that we are talking about. And that is what we need to embrace. So I am, through the housing secretary who's here, if you need Mr. Kumar to have our guests visit Park Road and see what it is that we are talking about, we're very happy to facilitate that. So without any more ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor and pleasure now to declare this summit open and wish you all interactive and fruitful deliberations going forward. Thank you so much, and God bless you.